Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of iWoofs with your hosts, me, Jamie Dunbar.
Ian Dunbar.
And Kelly Dunbar.
All right, today we're going to be talking about the sorts of problems that are likely to arise and the sorts of things dog owners should be thinking about as we begin to slowly emerge from this crazy pandemic lifestyle we've all been forced into. Obviously, the past year has been an incredibly unique and challenging time. Now it seems like things are starting to get back to normal, and obviously there'll be ups and downs, but hopefully that's the direction we're headed. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the sorts of problems that this transition is going to present and how you can prepare your dog for the changes that are coming. So, Kelly, what do you think are some of the problems that we're going to start seeing as life starts returning to normal with regards to dogs, of course?
There's, I think, kind of two prongs to this, and I'll start with one, and imagine Ian will take the other prong. I think we're going to see a lot of dogs that do not know how to be home alone and don't know how to spend time on their own, and are a bit worried or bored with their new status of latchkey dog when everyone goes back to work and back to the gym and back to events that do not include their dog. So we've got to be prepared to help teach dogs how to be on their own and actually probably practice that. So we can go into some detail about that later. That's one of the big things I see. Ian, what do you see happening?
I think separation anxiety, number one, the dogs have been accustomed to human contact, on demand, and they're going to fall apart. So they really need help there. And I agree with you. I put that first because of the maxim, home and family first. At least let's raise dogs so they're comfortable in their own home. And they've been really hunky-dory for several months, and now their own home is going to become a scary place because of the nothingness, the absence of people. Second up would be for those people who welcome people into their homes or take the dog out on walks. I think the dogs are going to be ill-prepared to meet visitors, unfamiliar people. And so, some dogs will be reactive. When people come to the house, we'll have to put them away as a temporary management tool until we build up their confidence. And then, of course, the option of walking, we got to take it very slowly. We shouldn't be rushing this dog through the environment. I think just take him outside, sit down, start work on your iPhone and let the dog just hide and peek and watch the world go by its front door. And I would do the same on walks too. Then we have the exposure to unfamiliar people that we can't delay, like a trip to the vet clinic. So I think these are the two big things to work on: separation anxiety, and then now the dog meeting lots of people that it probably hasn't done much of in the last 15 months.
So FOMO,
Kelly, I'm curious.
stranger danger.
Sorry, you were saying?
FOMO and stranger danger.
FOMO, that's fear of missing out, right? So
yeah, I mean, because I think I don't think that all dogs are going to have separation anxiety, although I think we'll see a significant rise in that, as Ian said. But there's also the lesser, lesser scary cousin, which is just FOMO. Back to what dogs just not knowing what to do when they're home alone, and then through that you get the. It can blossom into separation anxiety, but it's just a funnier way of saying it. I don't know.
Right.
And also, dogs are just going to be bored.
Is it separation anxiety, or is it being separate and getting the chance to have some fun while your owner's away, or you're bored and
being bored, suddenly bored? I mean, everyone's been home all day with you. So, I mean, for some dogs that will present true stress and anxiety, and for others it'll be just uncharted territory, kind of like home alone for the first time or something.
So Kelly, I'm wondering, you said you thought there'd be two prongs, and you thought that Ian would pick up on the second one. Was that the second prong you were thinking he was going to say?
For the most part, yes. The stranger danger or just lack of, stranger danger, really. Because hopefully people have at least been taking their dogs out on during the pandemic, and hopefully they're not environmentally just challenged and and anxious about things in the environment, but people approaching, coming into your house, as Ian said, and having maybe going to different parties and parks where there'll be people. So yeah, basically, it's being home alone, and then it's having other people come into your home. I think those are where you're going to see the problems for most of these dogs. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we should keep in mind that even people who think that they did a good job socializing their dog during a pandemic, and some people may have done an excellent job, um, might be surprised to find that their dog still is having some problems. And Ian, you remember when we brought Claude home from the shelter, and we thought we'd
Yes.
tested him out. We brought him a dog that was probably a year and a half old. Let's say he'd been in the shelter for several months, and it was a decent shelter where they were doing behavior and training, and they were taking him out for walks. So we thought, well, let's test out this dog, and train him in a room, and let's touch him and handle him, and let's take him for a walk. Let's see how he acts out in the city streets. And he was perfectly fine on the city streets. Well, of course, what had happened was, he'd gone on a walk that he'd gone on every day in the shelter, so it became part of his inner circle. Had nothing to do with being okay with the outside world or being in a car or being in a new neighborhood. So what happened then, Ian? Do you remember?
Well, he got him in the truck, and you're driving across the Bay Bridge to take him home, and he just decompensated and started vocalizing that was like a scream of fear and anxiety. So
It's a
you,
110-pound dog, no
yeah,
less, right?
110-pound dog that had just bitten me twice when I evaluated him. Remember, we
Right,
were
right,
touched
yes.
because he was on, I think, euthanasia watch because he had bitten a staff member there. Remember? And
Yeah.
anyway, none of these bites were anyway dangerous. They didn't puncture the skin, but Kelly suggested I put my hand through the little window from her truck
You
cab
had
to
to.
the back
Someone had
to,
to
to
do
comfort
that.
him. And as I did that, Claude sniffed Kelly, who just instantly he loved, and his head came through the window, trapping my arm like this, and his head's here. So I said, "Oh my God, I can't move my arm." And I sort of said,
He
"Please,
tried coming through.
wrangle him, Kelly." So she was making kissing noises, like, "It's okay, Claudie, it's okay." So he's looking at her and not at me. And I sort of looked out this window for the whole, I mean, it's an 8-mile trip across the bridge. Then we pulled over as soon as we hit land, and you stopped and like pulled him. You went in the back of the cab and pulled him back.
Because he was trying to get through the little cab
Yeah.
window. Yeah, and but the point is, even as two people who should know better, we thought, wow, we've checked this dog out. We think he knows what he's doing, and he's calm and cool out in the world, and really it was just his inner circle. And so my going back to my whole point there is, even if you think you've been taking your dog out, humans are creatures of habit, and so a lot of these dogs may have gone to their local park, or just to the few places that you felt were safe during a pandemic. And now that your circle might widen in that way as well, as far as your ranging territory might range, right, widen, you might find that your dog also is kind of just in a very specific habit. Or you might think, well, they socialized because we had our bubble and there were 10 people in our bubble. Well,
Yeah.
you'll find very quickly when you go back to pre-pandemic life or post-pandemic, kind of pre-pandemic life, that you actually have a lot more than 10 people in your bubble when you're not restricted. And your dog that seems socialized might still be a little bit behind the
Y-
curve and stressed
Yeah,
out.
I mean, even the best socialized dog in the past year hasn't seen a lot of street fairs or outdoor concerts or, family reunions at parks and all these types of activities that have been so fewer and
Yeah,
far between.
yeah. So it's going to be different, and there's just a lot of novel, stimuli out there that they haven't dealt with or ever experienced. So
Yeah.
no matter, and not only that, but Ian, what do you think about the dogs that are older than the pandemic? That maybe you had a well socialized, chill dog that was used to you going to work every day, 9 to 5, and it was 2 years old when the pandemic started. Now it's 3, or even older. you think they're going to have some trouble adjusting back to
They may
normal?
have some trouble, but less so than the dog that doesn't have that prior experience, because that good socialization or good lifestyle gives them a certain amount of padding now to protect them from changes. But of course, behavior and temperament never stay the same. That, oh, this is,
Yeah.
people think, oh, he'll be okay. No, it's changing every day. It certainly changes slower and less in adulthood once habits have become
Mhm.
fixed. But no, they will be different dogs. And I think
I mean, I feel like we should be socialized people, right? Like we all have to reemerge
oh, yeah, yeah.
slowly. So why would it be any different we're all socialized to a degree, but like I don't know, I don't want to be close to anybody at like a movie theater, or
There's going
you
to be a
know,
lot of very awkward chit chatting in the coming year. People are going to have to remember how to do the small talk and stuff like
awkward
Yeah.
that.
greetings too. How
Well,
do you greet somebody? Do you touch
no,
them? Do you not
or
touch them?
not. The chit chat, these pleasantries. I mean, maybe let's just eliminate them forever and now, maintain with their smaller bubble and deeper relationships that are more fulfilling and meaningful. Um, I was joking there, but I think a lot of people will do that. I think a lot of people have learned that.
No, a lot of people will.
I think a lot of us have learned we don't need frivolous socialization just for the sake of socializing, and we've all constricted, I think constricted our social groups.
Yeah. Okay, so if these are the two big problems we're foreseeing, the home alone and then the kind of the socialization and desensitization, why don't we start with at-home problems? What do you think are some tips, some easy things people can start doing now to get ready and make it easier for their dog? Why don't you start, Kelly?
I think that it's important to start today, right now, getting out without your dog, but in the tiniest of increments, or getting away from your dog, I should say. For some of these dogs, that might literally mean just leaving them in a room alone, or in their crate in the other room for a few minutes while you go into the other side of the house, or go out to the garden for a minute, or just go get the mail. Um, you can't go too slowly. You can certainly go too quickly when you're trying to build a skill like this, and what you're trying to do is avoid the abrupt jolt of, I was here all the time and now I'm not here at all. And you know as humans, we think, well, that jolt was going to be, I was here all the time and now I'm gone for, half a day or a day. But honestly, for your dog, you leaving the house, if you haven't done it, and really be honest with yourself and think about it, if you haven't gone any further than the mailbox without your dog for the past year or 6 months, or how long you've had this dog, that's where you start. So in small increments, practice departures. It's actually a good idea to practice these really short departures and get your dog used to the idea of the departure sounds, without it being, but a mere 30 seconds, then coming back, and get it to the point of just nonchalance. So pick up, get dressed like you're going out to your car. Even if you're not going out to your car, pick up your keys, put on your coat, get out that work briefcase or backpack or whatever you're using these days. Put on the ear pods, all these little cues that will show the dogs that, oh, commute's about to happen. That's going to be a long day. And just go sit in your car for a minute, or drive around the block, or walk down the block and come back. And you know um, all the while, with technology, you can leave, you can video your dog and record your dog while they're gone, or access them. And you don't even need a fancy app or to do that. You can do it, like, you leave your computer on and just take your phone with you and zoom yourself, or something, and just see how your dog is responding to this. And by all means, leave them with something to do, a rubber food stuffed toy or some kind of delectable edible treat that they can, that will keep them occupied and happy to wave goodbye and see you go, so that they have their special treats and their special chews when you're absent versus when you're present.
What do you think, Dad? That sounded pretty good to me. Are there any other ideas that you'd like people to consider?
Yeah, I had a whole load of sequential ideas, and as I came up with one idea, it bumped the other one out of my brain. Then another one came up, and they all bumped along. So I'm stuck with the
Notes.
I'm stuck with the first idea I had when Kelly started talking and the last idea. So the first idea in terms of the leaving cues, we can start desensitizing the leaving cues, like jangling your car keys, locking doors, the clothes you wear, etc., kissing the dog on the head, without leaving at all. So first I would just go through a key jangling routine, jangle the keys, and then go over to the dog, tell him lie down, give him a treat. And again, jangle the keys before we even get to the whole planned departure routine, which it takes a long time to do. Now, we have to bear in mind that to train the dog to be okay when we're gone, the only time we can do this training, of course, is when we're home. And I think this is where most
Mhm.
people fall down the trap, because in the good old days when we all went to school or work, we were away so much from our dogs that when we came home, we felt guilty and wanted them to give them all our attention when we're home. So they learned to have unlimited
Mhm.
access to us at those times. Um, I actually had a eye opener this morning that I was working away on my computer, and then I was asked, "Oh, I've got no help downstairs. Could you look after the puppy?" Now, it's a puppy who's been living here for 7 days, and he loves me. What can I say? He didn't love me when owner number one left, and he's left with the grump here, the Grinch or whatever, Grinch. And
Great.
I actually had to take, I realized I can't write, I can't concentrate listening to this incessant whining. So I had to train him. It's okay, it's me. Settle down and shush. And it took about 10 to 20 minutes. But then I thought, I know, I wanted to go downstairs. So I took the pup with me, and we passed the evening room, and his crate was there. And he nosed open the door and went in and laid down of his own accord.
Oh,
So when I wanted to come back upstairs, I'm looking at him and I said, "Do you want to come up and sit next to me? Or do you want to lie in your crate?" And he closed his eyes. So I locked the crate door. And that's where he happily spent the next half hour. And so it kind of shocked me that, number one, he had separation anxiety when lying next to me because he wants another family member. So we're going to get a lot of this when mum goes back to work. No question about it. But now dad's left with the dog, and the dog says, like, "Who are you, buddy? You're the second on my list." But also the beauty of him then finding the crate, because he's been crate trained ever since he was a puppy. And this is his security. And I think the most important thing to teach an anxious animal is how to cope with the anxiety. What do you do? And it's the thing we always advise people, that if you start off and for the first 3 days for your puppy in your house or an adult dog adoptee, we are in our crate with a new chew toy stuffed with food every time we're put in there. This actually becomes the dog's
mhm.
place of choice. It's my private place where I have my little quiet times. And it's great if we've done that, like we did it with this puppy, because when he's dumped off with me again, if I'm busy, I should probably say, "No, why don't you go in your crate? I'll bring his crate upstairs." And then he knows what I do there. Comfy bed in my crate. I lie down and sleep until they ask me to come out and go pee. And knowing how to act.
Coping mechanisms.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Coping
You looked like
mechanisms.
you were talking. I didn't hear the words.
Coping
Oh,
mechanisms.
coping.
Teaching
Yeah,
coping mechanisms.
yeah. No, I saw your mouth moving, but no sound was coming out of my computer. Maybe you're joking now. Okay. And so for the rest of us that haven't trained this in, we now have to train the dogs when we're away to enjoy lying down, and enjoying your hobby. So we have to turn chew toy chewing into a hobby so it becomes a habit and passes the time of the day, so the dog doesn't realize I'm here all alone. Because that realization is what then makes the anxiety become a positive feedback loop, The more I'm anxious, the less I lie down, the more I walk, the more I pace, the more I pace, the more anxious I become. And they focus on that I'm on my own now. But the training has to start when we are at home to prepare the dog for when we're absent.
All right, that seems like some good tips for the home alone issues we're anticipating coming soon. What about some of the reactivity and the social anxiety stuff? What do you think would be some good, easy places for people to start preventing those problems? Kelly?
Well, I think it's going to start. Ian, this was a good point. I mean, it's going to be in the home more than it's going to be out and about. Because normally I would say have them sit and outside and absorb the world, but now it's going to suddenly be encroaching upon their world, which is really tougher. So again, going along with what Ian was saying about coping mechanisms and strategies, tell your dog what you want them to do, teach them and prepare them in advance for what they can do, and give them a secure place to go when people are in the home. So obviously management will be the key at first if necessary. So by that I mean, if somebody's coming to your house and you haven't feel like your dog is sufficiently prepared, I would maybe put them away in another room versus have them attempt on their own to cope with somebody in their face or in their space. So this would be a great time to put a dog away in a crate or in another room if you're not training and this isn't a training scenario that you've set up and you don't have the time or wherewithal to do it. But in the meantime, one of the skills that I would teach is a nice settle on your place, on your mat, and like have them have to go to their bed, which I like to treat as a something that is like an invisible crate for them that is usually in a higher traffic area where the dog can go and learn that, okay, when I'm told to go to my bed, I chill out of my place here and I just stay here, and you can give them a chew project or not. And I would start teaching them that with the usual people that are in the house, and the usual suspects increasing foot traffic and door opening, and perhaps with all the deliveries that are coming, getting them used to the idea that this is where you go when people come over. So that's more of a coping mechanism side of things. But there's also some strategies that you're going to have to utilize to teach your dog to accept strangers, I guess. And there's going to be a lot of them. So, Ian, what do you suggest? How do you suggest people start to integrate strangers into their dog's lives, new people into their dog's lives?
Well, I would continue with your suggestion, and I would do a lot of work in the home first. Um, that I think we're very unrealistic without COVID. We're totally unrealistic about what we expect from a dog. We expect dogs to be friendly with every dog on the planet and every person. And as we know, people can't even do that with other people. And so my strategy for rehabilitating the dog or put it in a nicer way, to giving the dog tools to deal with this new scarier world of unfamiliar people coming into my house and then meet them on the street, is I would do it one person at a time outside of household members, with the notion of gradually trying to create a core social group of house visitors. And so I would start with the family members teaching the dogs the basic come here, sit routine, repetitive, come sit treat, come sit treat, come sit treat, just, two-step approaches. So in terms of teaching the dog how to act, it's very controlled. Come sit, and that becomes the dog's security blanket, if you like. That when I come sit, I feel cool. So that once the dog knows the retreat and treat game, now we bring in our first visitor who's going to hand feed the dog his dinner tonight, basically. Every piece of kibble hand fed. Now we start not approaching the dog. You must wait for the dog to come to you. I think the two most powerful
Not a
temperament tests,
passive.
the two
Hmm.
most powerful temperament tests are: will a dog approach you happily, jauntily, and will he take food? They're very revealing in terms of how the dog feels about you. So I always start by tossing the treat over the dog's head to further increase the dog's distance. He comes to a distance where he's comfortable. Well, I stretch it, toss a bit of kibble over the head, and then 3 bits of enhanced kibble between the dog and me. So as he approaches me, he gets enhanced kibble, enhanced kibble, enhanced kibble, then kibble over the head, and then treat, if you like, between him and me till he's happily close and takes the food from my hand. Always have a second bit of food there, because once the dog comes forward, like kind of scared, and takes the kibble from your hand, now your empty hand is too close to him. So that's when he gets really and upset and runs off or has a snap at you. So always have another bit of kibble. As soon as he takes it, back away. Come sit, treat. Come sit, treat. But you've always got a bunch of kibble in your hand. And then eventually you can sit on a chair and comfortably hand feed the dog. This is one person. I would have that one person come maybe 1 or 2 days in a row, then go to a second person. And we're inviting those people, of course, who we want to come to our homes. Are going to be likely visitors, maybe the next door neighbor, a couple of special friends. So we're building the dog social group. And with each person we do it, it generalizes. Then, before meeting strangers on the street, because strangers are unpredictable, we don't know what they're going to do, I would take the core social group on the street and have them walk the block or go back and forth in front of the house. So each stranger approaches and walks by the dog multiple times. And every time they walk by, of course, it gets easier for the dog to do because it's the same person. Or we have them walk around the block and you and the dog go the opposite way. And we practice greetings with ersatz strangers that know what to do, to come to a certain distance and stand still, while you sit the dog and then say in a happy voice, "Hey, it's a stranger. Go say hello." And they run up and sit because the stranger has been instructed to get the dog to sit with the lure like he's been doing in your house and not touch the dog until it is. And so gradually doing this person by person in the home, then on the street, before we even, try it with a real stranger. But eventually, when we've done it for, a number of days, the real strangers will be out there. And it's very important that they don't rush up to your dog. So you just tell them, stop. Just say he's just rolled in horse manure or something. Stop that quick approach and say, let me give you some treats to toss to him. But it will be, this is not so much of what we talk about here. It's quick and easy. This is the type of training I like. This won't be quick. It will be time consuming, but it's so important because you're dealing with your dog's feelings, stress and anxiety.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, also, like, I think we've been talking about this, or I think you've been talking about it from the perspective of we know that this is a problem. Do you think that most dogs are going to have, like these problems and require this pretty intensive
Well,
training? Or do you
it's a
think
good
some dogs are
question. It's
just
a
going to,
good. I mean, not every dog will, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of factors that will come into play with that. But the thing is, first impressions matter, and it doesn't hurt to play it safe. And then read your dog. People are going to otherwise. I mean, because everyone's going to be so excited to be able to be social again, and this sounds like tedious and time consuming, which is why you should start right away before you can have that big summer party. Because when people get the chance, they're going to want to have everybody over, and they might think that the dog is more social than they are. So it does no harm to take it slow initially, even if that means your dog is fine and you can quickly proceed, along to a normal pace. You don't know until you know. So I would assume that your dog needs a little bit of help and make those first impressions good and easy, that the kind of things that build confidence versus the kind of thing that might startle them and even set them further back. Because if your dog has any sense of wow, strangers are a little weird, or who are these people, and then they're a little unsure and you bombard them all at once, they're going to say, wow, my suspicion was right, versus, well, this is pretty easy actually.
that seems like excellent advice. Better safe than sorry. First impressions matter. I think we should leave it there, unless either of you have any parting words you want to give people on the topic.
I do. I think when we talk about existing problems, um, I generally always think, well, let's be safe. And re-echo what Kelly is saying, um, because I'm often accused of, oh, you only talk about puppies, Ian. You only talk about prevention. You don't talk about resolving problems. So I think, okay, let's talk about resolving the problem. It's going to be time. It's going to take some time. But we are dealing with dog-human interactions, and these, to me, is the most important thing to teach dogs. And I do think, because we're dealing with the dog's feelings, we should take our time and first do it in the home, where the setting is much more controlled, because you can control the people before blithely going out there. However, now this is the sunny side, the sheer adaptability of dogs never ceases to amaze me. There are a number of dogs where theoretically I would say, well, they're kind of screwed a bit because you didn't socialize them. And then I sit back and see this adult dog who's scared of his own shadow and scared of people just rehabilitate himself so quickly when meeting the right kind of people who are happy and tossing treats. And so the sunny side is, I consider dogs, and for that matter, children, when I look at their development and see what they've gone through and how well they usually turn out. So that's the sunny side. I actually expect most of the dogs are going to be okay with this. But of course, the answer we were asked to give is, yeah, what if they're not okay? What do we suggest that they do? And I think this will be time consuming, but it's certainly worth the effort.
All right, that sounds good. Well, thanks everyone for listening. We'll say goodbye now.
Bye.
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 Good to see you guys.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
What a silly question. Do you have anything else to say, Dad? Yeah.
Maybe I'll stop doing that and I'll just cut
And
it.
then just say, well, thanks, everybody. Goodbye. Yeah.
Thanks for watching this video. If you'd like to learn more about dog training and behavior, make sure you visit dunbaracademy.com to check out our selection of courses, many of which are completely free. If you would rather watch more of our videos here on YouTube, just click the links to the right. And if you want to follow us on social media, everything you need is directly below. As always, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell for notifications.